I've got 5 positions Texas A&M needs to hit hard in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. So, it's Friday. That's exciting. Very exciting. And today, we're going to talk a lot about the transfer portal. Yesterday, we discussed the guys who are heading out. Today, we're going to discuss what positions you need to bring in. Some guys Texas A&M has offered. Some guys that are going to come visit. So we're going to run through all this. And we'll start with what positions does Texas A&M need to hit hard in the portal? Because I'll tell you, there are a handful of positions I think Texas A&M needs to hit hard in the portal. One thing, if you remember back, last cycle, Coach Fisher didn't bring in a ton in the portal. He brought in some. He didn't bring in nothing, but he didn't bring in some of these classes we're used to seeing now. And I'm not saying he should have. Maybe he didn't need to. We know what was on that roster. But the transfer portal, the transfer portal is something, it depends how you feel. Truly. My opinion on the transfer portal, it's not my favorite thing in the world, frankly. The world of college sports, a lot of people say, everyone that doesn't like the change in the college sports, you got to be, the old ways and stuff. And I'm a young guy and I don't like the new world of college football, frankly. I just don't, the whole people are leaving, Oklahoma quarterback's leaving because he wants a $2 million contract. It's a little crazy to me. Good for these kids for making money. Good for these players, being able to provide for their families. That's all great. But when it comes to just college football and the portal, it's changed a little bit. I'm not a fan. But I'm not going to sit here and yell at a tree. So we're going to discuss just some positions the Aggies need to go hit hard in the portal. And, one I have, and it's not one that they've really offered a ton yet, but I think you ought to go get a dominant pass rusher. A lot of this, you have to think about what you've lost in the portal and, what you've lost in, okay. Now, once again, caveat, Fadil Diggs still has not technically, I believe, entered his name into the portal. So, but as of now, we assume you're losing Fadil Diggs to the portal. You need a pass rusher. You need somebody, obviously, I think you can get pressure with some people in the middle, but I want somebody who can come off the edge and just get to the quarterback. And, the thing about the portal, I always talk about there's multiple types of players to get in the portal. And I think with NIL, it's frankly added a new level. I think there are your players at a smaller school looking for a step up in the college football world. I'm at North Texas and I want to make a move to the SEC, right? Then you've got your players who were 4 stars and 5 stars out of, or maybe, mostly 4 stars, but out of high school and just got buried and didn't find a lot of playing time. And now they're somewhere, I'm going to hit the portal and find a new home. That's another level. And then I think you've got the players who were great at a school that want more money. And that's another level. So I think that I like the players that were at a smaller school, did a lot, and moved up in the world. So, but pass rusher, defensive line, defensive end, whatever, that's a position I think you should go get somebody. Go get a guy who had 8 sacks last year. Go get a guy who got pressure, who could prove they can get to a quarterback. I just think, having a guy who can come get pressure next year would be really good to see. When Texas A&M got pressure last season, they were great. So go get you a guy who can get some pressure. That's where I'm at with this. Go get a player who can get after opposing quarterbacks, really make their life not fun back there. Go get a dominant pass rusher. The next one I have, and this is funny, this is a position where you look at the roster, and I'm not upset about where the position is currently, and that would be receiver. But I also look at, hey, what position groups have they offered? They've offered a handful of receivers. So they clearly feel that they need some depth at the receiver position. And, I get it. Anaya Smith is moving on, and then you lose a Raymond Cottrell to the portal. You're down a couple scholarship receivers. You need a couple, but they're hitting hard. They clearly feel that it's a desperate need. They need some receivers. So, and we'll talk about players they've offered. They've offered a handful of talented ones. So receivers are a position that the coaching staff feels they need a few players in. I don't hate it. I don't mind Coach Klein going and handpicking some guys he likes, some receivers in the portal that he would want on his team. So I'm fine with that. The next position, and I don't think based on offers, I haven't seen a ton, is offensive line. Go get some dudes on the offensive line. Seriously, you could go get 17 offensive linemen. I would be okay with it. I would be fine with clearing up space for 42 offensive linemen. The portal for me, offensive line, go find a guy who played like you offered this kid from North Dakota, right? We'll talk about him in a minute. Go get some guys like that. They've played 2 or 3 years at college football. They're big guys. They're strong. They haven't played really at the Power 5 level. Go get some of those guys. Go get some of those offensive linemen that can play football. We see this happen all the time. We see offensive linemen come in from the smaller schools, and it's not like they're get physically dominated in the SEC. These kids, because you're not bringing in the ones that would. You're bringing in the ones that can handle it. But you got to go get some offensive linemen. You've already lost, I think, 3 to the portal. A couple were reserves, one being Basantis. But, go get some dudes in the portal. So, go get some dogs that are angry and want to prove, hey, I'm an SEC offensive lineman. Go get some guys that want to prove themselves. That's a position I think the coaching staff needs to hit hard. They've offered a linebacker in the portal. That's a position I wouldn't mind going to get a linebacker. I think it's a position I like where we're at, but I think you need a couple. I wouldn't mind some depth is what I'm saying. You got a couple guys coming in the recruiting class still. You got a couple guys, on the roster that I really like, but I still wouldn't mind a linebacker. I'm not saying go get 4, like I said, with the offensive line. I'd say go get 1, go find one you like. And for depth, maybe an experienced guy is great. Bring in a player that's been there, done that. And then another position that they have hit hard, and you can tell because they've already offered a handful, is defensive backs and corners. I haven't seen a safety offered that I've seen. I've seen some corners offered. And the corner that we're going to talk about is really good. He's actually, what I've read, on campus today for a visit. And this kid is good. Might be following Coach Klein from K-State. So we'll talk about him in a minute. But we saw what you got last year from cornerback position. It wasn't great. And, you lose some guys already. You lose a couple DBs, Gilbert, Chappelle, to the portal. You got to replace them. And, you don't want to replace them with young guys who don't have a ton of experience. You want to replace them with guys who have experience. Let those young guys develop. Go get and then you don't have a ton committed in the 2024 class. So go get you some dudes that can play. And I think that if Texas A&M lands this guy we're about to talk about, he's a dude that can play. So those are the position groups I think you got to hit hard in the portal. And if you want to take the quality over quantity approach, I'm cool with that. but go get some serious blue chip portal recruits, or the highly ranked portal guys. Go get some serious names. Don't get the guys that it's like, who's this guy? Go get the names everybody wants. That's what I think you got to do here. So that's what I think we need. Let me know in the YouTube comments, what position group do you want to see Texas A&M hit the hardest in the portal? And what player in the portal do you want Texas A&M to land the most? Let me know those two things in the YouTube comments. We're going to talk about a handful of players that Texas A&M has offered in the transfer portal, and we will do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. First, I got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is so much fun to play. What I love about it is it makes betting simple. You take an over or you take an under on a prop, whether it's rushing yards, receiving yards, bases, points, rebounds, assists, whatever it is, you take higher or lower on a stat. You can look at previous games. You can look at matchups to predict okay, if you want to take passing yards, what defense is CJ Stroud going against this week? Is it a highly ranked defense against quarterbacks? Where is it ranked there? If you take points, how does the opposing team guard the 3-point line? If you want to take over 1.5 bases in baseball, what does the opposing pitcher do? Does he throw gas? Does he have a good off-speed pitch? That is what you can do. You can build those projections, and based on that, make the picks you like, higher or lower. And it's just a ton of fun to play. So you got to go check out PrizePicks. I use it. It's a ton of fun. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. So back to some players Texas A&M has offered in the portal. So the offensive lineman I was talking about, his name is Easton Kitty. He played at North Dakota. They don't do PFF grades for that, so you can't really get a PFF grade on a kid like him. But looking at his numbers from just the website, North Dakota's football website, he's played guard, he's played tackle throughout his career, which is great. 6'5", 305 pounds. I'd put a few pounds on him. I'd like to see him at 315. But I think that's part of, hey, you're in the SEC, we got to put 10 pounds of muscle on you. I think they'll do that. So I'd like to see a little bit of weight on him. Not a ton. I'm not saying get to 337. I'm saying get to 315, 317, get that range. But I watched the tape. I believe in the footwork. I believe he's an offensive lineman who can come in and play in the SEC. I think he's not going to get physically dominated even at 305, but I would put on some weight. He looks good playing the position. He looks angry. He's got the dog mentality, which is what I always say I care about when it comes to playing the offensive line position. And I think this kid's got it. So I wouldn't mind seeing the staff, further pursue him. And then, if any of these guys commit today elsewhere, it is what it is. I'm recording this once again Friday morning. I checked this morning, on all these guys hadn't committed yet, but you know how it is. You never know if one of these guys, commits. I'm double checking. He hasn't really gone anywhere. Oh, and it's Kilty. Sorry, not Kitty. Kilty. Easton Kilty. And no, it looks like he hasn't committed anywhere. But, like I said, I like the tape. I think he's a good player. I think he can play in the SEC. Then you get into Marley Cook, who is a defensive lineman from MTSU, 74.5 grade on the season, 6.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. They played Alabama. He had 3 pressures, which is one thing I like to look at too. Has he ever played in the SEC? Has he proven he can play in the SEC? There you go right there. Alabama, he proved he can get some pressure at Alabama. This is, and once again, I watched a little bit of tape. I haven't watched as much tape on all these guys as I'd like to. I just watched a little, 2-minute tape on a couple of them. And I like this kid a lot. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I want to pull back up. He seems like a hot commodity in the portal. I think a lot of schools are getting after him. And then he was, he put out a top 3. What's his top 3? See, this is the problem with the portal is you never get Texas A&M in his top 3. Texas A&M might have been this kid's top 3, but all I went on. I pulled up names based on, who Texas A&M's offered in the portal. So if this kid's not coming to Texas A&M, it's so hard to find this stuff. But so if he's not, cross it off. But I like the tape on him. I think wherever he does go, he's gonna be a good football player. This is the kid I'm excited about. Is Will Lee, the corner from Kansas State. He had the best defensive grade on the defense for Kansas State, 76.6, 6'3", 185 pounds, 42 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 2 interceptions. Just a good football player, highly graded. This kid's going to be a star. He did put out a top 3. I saw that. And it was Washington, one other school, and then Texas A&M. I've heard on a visit to Texas A&M today, this is a special football player. I think if you get him, that helps your cornerback position immediately. So I'm hoping you get him. Then you got the receivers, and then you offered an Arkansas from you offered a linebacker from Arkansas. Stats are kind of okay on this guy, but offered a kid from there at the linebacker position. Then you got the receivers. You've got Jamori Macklin, 57 receptions, 1,004 yards, 11 touchdowns. You got Javon Harvey, 29 from Old Dominion, 29 receptions, 391 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And then you've got Will Sheppard, the kid from Vandy. And I'll tell you, when I look at these receivers, there's one name that stands out to me, and that's Will Sheppard. I have been so high on Will Sheppard. There's multiple schools after him. I mean, he's going to be a hot commodity in the portal. This is just a kid. I mean, I've watched him play a lot of football. I think this is an NFL wide receiver. I think he needs tape, not at Vandy. If he could put up 800 yards, come into a school, put up 700, 800 yards, I think he's an NFL wide receiver. This kid is really, really stinking good. Go get him. Go get him. I know a lot of schools have offered. Let's see if I can find an offer list. I don't really see. Ole Miss says offers. South Carolina offers. Auburn offers. Like I said, this kid, he's one of the best receivers in the portal, in my opinion. He's so good. I think this is a guy you bring in. You talk about you want to bring in a surefire guy. This guy has proven he can play in the SEC. Go get him. I really like him. Give him a good NIL deal. Give him a good package. I think he could come in and start immediately. I think really highly of him. I think he's a great football player. So that's the guy. I think the 2 players that I've circled on here are going to be Will Lee, the cornerback from Kansas State, and Will Sheppard, the receiver from Vandy. If you go get those 2 guys and then keep bringing in some offensive linemen, I already feel good about where you're at. So like with the Marley Cook guy, it's so hard to find players where they're going in the portal. If it looks like the Cook, I don't think we're getting them now. Looking at there's a top 3, and it won't let me read where he's. So if he's not going here, that's on me. But I think you got to go get some guys. And if any of these guys commit elsewhere during the day, once again, I'm recording this in the morning. But those are some guys. And once we start, you got to remember, there not a ton has come out yet of guys that are coming to visit. I want to pull up. There's one kid that I think was supposed to come on a visit. Did he ever come up on a visit? Pull this up. Because I thought that Lacy, the South Alabama, was supposed to come on a visit. I don't see anything about it. Let me type this in. We'll add Texas A&M after his name. Haha, see if that does anything. But oh yeah. He is going to visit. So that's another name to remember because he was an 1,000-yard receiver. Let me pull up his stats. This kid was really good. So I'm really happy that he's going to be that you're going to have him on campus. Yeah, 91 receptions, 1,316 yards, and 7 touchdowns. This kid's a good football player. It sounds like he's coming on a visit this weekend. Another guy that I'm high on. So I think, and I'm going to add him to my list of guys to put a star next to. Him, Will Sheppard, and Will Lee are the guys that I think you got to go get. I like those guys a lot. So, and if anybody hears anything different on this Marley Cook guy, let me know. But after just kind of clicking his name and news, I don't feel like Texas A&M's getting him. So let me know if y'all have heard anything different. But I don't feel good about that one. But no, Will Lee, Caulin Lacy, and then Will Sheppard are some guys I really think Texas A&M should go get. But once, more, this guy's visiting. Texas A&M's reached out to this guy. It's getting serious between this guy and Texas A&M. We'll talk about all that when they get commits. We'll break it all down. But I just wanted to run through some names. I read on an article just some names Texas A&M's offered. So I wanted to run through that. I watched some tape and wanted to run through those. But that is where we are at in the transfer portal. I want to talk a little bit about some recruiting. And I think what we're going to learn about Mike Elko as a recruiter just in these next 15 days. And we'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. So, not a long third segment today, just a couple minutes. I like to share my thoughts. Sometimes I have random thoughts, and I like to share those thoughts. I think recruiting is an interesting thing that people that haven't been in college football recruiting, myself obviously included, I'm not saying that like I have, understand. But it takes relationships. People always get concerned about the first recruiting class. Recruiting is something you're getting your foot in the door with these recruits when they're sophomores in high school. So what I'm saying is Coach Elko comes in and he's got to try, he gets here in the beginning of December. So he's had about 20 days to get his foot in the door with the players currently committed to Texas A&M. It's not an easy thing to do. You're going to lose some players. Some players are going to end up decommitting and leaving. We know that. You're going to have some, but I think what you're going to learn about is how good he is at building relationships. If Coach Elko can get some of these talented players to stay in this class just based on 20 days, I think it proves how good of a relationship builder he is, which is so important to being a head football coach in college. I mean, in college football, it's so vitally important to that. But I mean, it's important. He needs to build relationships with kids from Texas, with coaches in Texas, because that is how you recruit at the high level. It is all relationships. I mean, that word is so key when you talk about high school recruiting for college football. You got to build relationships. You got to be texting these kids every day. If they're committed somewhere else, I don't care. Keep going after them. You push hard. I don't care if they're committed. They've been committed to Bama for 5 years. Go after them. What's the worst that can happen? Building relationships is very important in recruiting. And we're going to learn a little bit about how well Coach Elko builds relationships in the next 12 days. Is he good at now? Once again, if you lose a talented recruit, does that mean that Coach Elko is a bad recruiter, bad at building these relationships? No. That's my whole point, is it does take years to build these relationships. He hasn't had years with these players. So what I'm kind of getting at here is I think Coach Elko is going to close this class well. But if he doesn't close this class well, I believe in his ability to build relationships for the future and recruit for the future. I'm not concerned about his ability to do that right now. So I think you're going to see him continue to recruit at the high level. I think you're going to see him be a great recruiter. But we're going to learn a little bit in these next 12 days about his recruiting style, about his relationship building ability. And so my final thought before we wrap it, call it a week here at Locked On Aggies. If Coach Elko is able to keep some of these 5 stars and some of this talent in the 2024 recruiting class, guys that have offers from everywhere, Bama, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, he's able to keep them in this class, I think it shows you he can sell a vision. He can sell what he wants for this program. And we're going to learn that very soon. But if that doesn't happen, it's not a reason to freak out. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. It's been a historic week this week at Locked On Aggies when it comes to viewership. So I just want to thank all you everydayers. I really do appreciate it. I hope everybody has an outstanding weekend. If there's any crazy breaking news, we'll bring you a bonus show this weekend. If not, we will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.